Bird the baby robin that followed us home. Red Heart, an unforgettable family adventure. Have you ever gone for an ordinary walk and come home with a memory you'll never forget? That's exactly what happened to us. It was a beautiful summer afternoon when Dad suggested we all go for a walk along the canal. Laiba and Halima were excited. They put on their trainers, grabbed their little backpacks, and raced each other all the way to the canal path. The air was warm, colorful wildflowers danced in the breeze, ducks floated peacefully on the water, and narrowboats slowly drifted past while cyclists and joggers smiled as they passed us. Everything felt perfect. Laiba pointed towards the water. "Look, Dad, a family of ducks." Halima laughed as one tiny duckling tried to keep up with the others. We spent a few minutes watching them before continuing our walk. None of us knew that our biggest adventure was only a few steps away. Suddenly, Halima froze. "Dad, what's that?" Right in the middle of the path sat a tiny baby robin. It wasn't flying. It wasn't moving. It simply looked up at us with its tiny black eyes and gave a quiet little chirp. We stopped immediately. The little bird looked frightened. Its feathers were still fluffy, and its wings looked too small for long flights. Dad quietly said, "Let's not scare it." We slowly stepped back and waited, expecting the robin to fly into a nearby tree. But it didn't. Instead, it hopped towards us. One tiny hop. Then another. Then another. Laiba couldn't believe her eyes. "Dad, I think it's following us." To test it, we carefully walked a few meters away. Hop, hop, hop. The baby robin followed us again. Halima started giggling. "I think it wants to come home with us." We all smiled, but Dad gently reminded us that wild birds belong in nature and that we had to find its family. We searched all around the nearby trees and bushes. We listened carefully for chirping. We looked high into the branches, but we couldn't see another robin anywhere. Just then, a loud caw echoed across the canal. A large crow landed nearby. The tiny robin immediately froze with fear. "Oh no!" whispered Laiba. Without touching the baby bird, we stood nearby to make sure the crow stayed away. After a few moments, the crow flew off and we all breathed a huge sigh of relief. The little robin looked at us again and gave another soft chirp, almost as if it was saying, "Thank you." We continued searching. Then Dad heard something. "Shh, listen." Very faintly, we could hear tiny chirping coming from the top of a tall tree. The baby robin heard it too. Its head suddenly lifted. It answered with the loudest chirp it had made all day. A few seconds later, 2 adult robins appeared on a branch above us. They chirped again. The baby robin became excited. It flapped its tiny wings as fast as it could. "Come on, little one," Halima whispered. The robin took a small hop, then another. Then it spread its little wings. For one magical second, it lifted into the air before landing safely on a low branch. Its parents immediately flew closer, chirping happily. The 3 robins stayed together, singing to one another as if they were celebrating their reunion. Laiba smiled so widely that her cheeks hurt. "We did it!" Even Dad looked emotional. I think that little robin chose us because it needed help. For several minutes, we quietly watched the robin family together again. It was one of those special moments that couldn't be planned. As the sun began setting over the canal, the sky turned bright orange and pink. The boats reflected the colors of the sunset, and everything became peaceful again. We slowly started walking home, but every few steps, Laiba turned around for one last look. The little robin was safely sitting beside its parents, high in the tree. Before disappearing into the leaves, it gave one final cheerful chirp. Halima smiled and waved. "Goodbye, little robin. Stay safe." The walk home felt different. We hadn't found treasure or solved a mystery. We had done something even more important. We had helped a tiny bird find its family again. From that day on, every time we walk along the canal, we look up into that same tree. Sometimes we hear robins singing, and we like to imagine that one of them is our little feathered friend, reminding us that even the smallest act of kindness can make the biggest difference. Red Heart moral of the story: always be kind to animals and respect nature. Sometimes, helping a small creature creates a memory that lasts forever.